look at the number 16 and we square it, 16 squared, we get 256. No secrets there. But what if I take 16 and raise it to the negative 2? Do you remember what negative exponents do? So if we had x to the third over x to the negative 2, it makes this x jump to the other side. So it's actually x to the third times x squared. So 16 to the negative 2 is really the same thing as dropping this to the bottom by getting rid of the negative. So 1 over 16 squared, which is 1 over 256. So let's try that. 16 squared, oops, not squared, 16 raised to the negative 2. And I get some terrible decimal, but if I turn that into a fraction, 1 over 256. Okay? What about 16 to the 1/2? What does 16 to the 1/2 do? It's the opposite of 16 squared. So 16 squared is asking what number times itself equals, or sorry, 16 times itself equals what? 256. So 16 to the 1/2 is asking what number times itself is 16. All right. So 16 to the 1/2 is asking what number times itself is 16, and the answer is 4. So the 1/2 is exactly the opposite of the squared, whatever. Lexi's watching this. Sorry, I apologize. So if you look at this 4 to what power is 16? 2. So a squared in one direction is the same thing as a 1/2 power in the other direction. So if I go from 16 to 4, that would be 1/2. If I go from 4 to 16, that would be squared. So they are inverses. Fractional exponents are the inverses of whole number exponents. What if we did both? What if we did 16 to the negative 1/2? What is that going to do? Well, what does a negative exponent do? Flips it upside down. So because it's a negative, I know it's, instead of 16 over 1, it's going to be 1 over something. And because it's a 1/2 power, it's going to be 16 to the 1/2 equals 4. Negative flips that upside down, so 1/4. Just because, since you're so excited to learn it. So if you look at the front page of your worksheet, number 6 asks, what does a negative exponent do? Flips a fraction upside down. Number 7 asks, what does a fraction exponent do? So it's like square root or cubed root. The way I like to think of it is it takes big numbers and makes them small. So looking at today's worksheet, we are going to be solving logarithms, and there is no answer sheet on this because you can double check them in your calculator. So number 1, log base 4 of 16. If we convert that, it's just saying 4 to what power equals 16. That's easy. 2. 4 squared is 16. The next one is asking 1 over 5. And when you're dealing with fractions, you need to put them in parentheses. 1 over 5 to what power equals 1 over 125? Well, did I flip it upside down? No, so it's not negative. Did I go from little to big or big to little? Well, it's a little bit tricky because What's bigger, 1/5 or 1 over 125? 1/5 is bigger, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the 5. Did the 5 get bigger or smaller? Bigger, so it's a whole number. Or a number bigger than 1, actually. So 5 to what power is 125? To the third. So I can double check this in my calculator by doing 1/5 raised to the third math fraction. I should get 1 over 125. Oops. Can't put the fraction thing right there, apparently. Okay. Now math fraction, 1 over 125. All right. Number 3. So log base 3 of 1/9 is saying 3 to what x value equals 1 over 9. Well, what do you notice about this? Well, did the 3 get bigger or smaller? The value 3, well, sorry, the digit 3 went from a 3 to a 9, which is bigger. Now, we started with a whole number and we ended with a fraction, so that's a little confusing. But the 3 turned into a 9, which is bigger. So it's a whole number. It's a number bigger than 1. And what else happened? It flipped upside down, so 3 to what power is 9? 2, and it flipped upside down, negative 2. Kind of getting the hang of this? Okay, number 4. 64 to what power equals 8? What do you notice? It went from big to small, which means it's going to be a fraction. So if we work backwards, 8 to what power is 64? 2. So going the other direction, the answer would be 1 over 2. Okay? So the next one, 1,000 to the x equals 1/10. What do you notice here? We went from big to small. We went from 1,000 down to 10, which means fraction. And we went from 1,000 over 1 to 1 over 10, so it's a negative fraction. 10 to what power is 1,000? 3. And it's negative, and it's a fraction, so it's negative 1/3. Yeah, and I recommend that once you figure out the answer, you plug it in to see if you're right. So 1,000 raised to the negative 1/3. Oh, I do have the answers on there? Oh, okay, forget that. Never mind. Okay, good luck.